Hello and welcome back to the J&Z podcast. My name is Jace,
And I'm Zeth.
and today we're joined by our very special guest, Jaycee Squared.
Yo, what's up? How y'all doing?
Oh man, and we've been trying to get this together for a few months, trying to get all the footage for me watching the movies, getting to know stuff. But before we get into all that, tell us a little bit more about yourself, Justin. What do you like to do? Channel-wise and everything.
I'm a YouTuber, obviously. Jaycee Squared is the channel. I have done many things on there for Hot Wheels AcceleRacers, Hot Wheels World Race. I've done my own podcast as well, Squared Corner Podcast. I do a bunch of videos at Hot Wheels Legends tours. I'll go around and make sure that other people get to experience what we experience here in the States sometimes. And I cosplay Vert Wheeler, probably the only one that does that in the world. That's sort of who I am. A little bit of just insight of what I do is I'm a part-time YouTuber and I try to do my best at it.
Awesome, You're doing great, man. So is your content mostly, is it like going over the toys, or is it like various media or games, or what?
It's funny. It used to be sort of just gaming videos at the very beginning, because Hot Wheels Infinite Loop was a brand new game that just came out on mobile, and it was the first game to feature Teku Dior 2, which was groundbreaking at the time. Unfortunately, that game is dead, so it doesn't really matter now. But I started out in doing a little bit of gaming, and that was at 50 subs, and I think over the years I just sort of decided that I needed to be everything. I'm very variety based in this Hot Wheels AcceleRacers community. I've done video essays, I've done parodies, I've done streaming, I've done pretty much anything you can imagine in the Hot Wheels space now, because it's not very full at the moment, and so it's kind of hard to be very specific. Right now it's mainly news and blogging about places I've been, or reporting on the community at large, because the community is what keeps this thing alive, and if they're not being posted and being spread and stuff, then it's kind of hard to want to do that stuff. So I just hope to share the passion with others.
Is there still a pretty large thriving community going on in the Hot Wheels space?
It's going pretty big right now. Originally when I first started, the Reddit was only at 2,000. It's now at 10,000. Actually, no, sorry, 11,000 now. My YouTube channel was at 50. I'm now at 4.2K. So
yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's gonna get bigger and bigger, and it's not gonna slow down. And I think if Hot Wheels is smart, well, Hot Wheels is pretty smart. They understand this need. I should say Mattel should realize the growing necessity for good storytelling and to feed these vans, because if they don't, yikes.
Yeah, they did that recently with the Hot Wheels Unleashed, because I freaked out when I saw the Hot Wheels Unleashed. It looked like such a great game in general, and then I didn't buy it right away, but then all of a sudden they said, oh yeah, here's some Metal Maniacs, here's some Teku cars, here's some World Race cars. And I was freaking out. I was like, oh man, I gotta get this. And then it was free on PlayStation Plus, so I was able to experience that finally.
Oh sweet, that's awesome. Yeah, glad you got it then.
Yeah, it's been really fun. I've been playing that for months now.
So one big thing I want to ask you is, what got you into Hot Wheels? Is it a childhood thing? What made you want to make a channel kind of based around it?
Well, definitely childhood. I think my first introduction into it, and I stated this on one of my podcast episodes way back, maybe. It was either through a VHS tape that my cousin had, or just maybe watching it and I probably watch it on Cartoon Network as well, reruns. Something happened, and I guess I found my way into this fandom at 5 years old, because me and my friends would go around the park in our little schoolyard, really, and we would play Hot Wheels World Race all the time. We had Crazy Eights, which was Brian Kadeem. We had Switchback, and we had Dior 2. So we had Vert, what's his friend's name, Alec, and Brian, and those were our three that we had. And so that's just what we played, and we just had so much fun with it as kids. And growing up, I guess I still held on to it because there was a little bit of cliffhanger. Battle Force 5 was, I thought, the 5th movie. Wasn't. People still are a little bit mad at it. I've grown to just be like, it's a different show. It's fine. The reason I got into the YouTubing, though, was because I, in 2019, cosplayed Vert Wheeler for the first time. Or no, sorry, 2018, really. 2018, I cosplayed Vert Wheeler for the first time, and I wanted to go see the Dior 2 in real life because they were having something called Hot Wheels Legends Tour for the 50th anniversary. Unfortunately, they didn't have a show here in Houston. They had one in Dallas, and I wasn't able to go. It was a Sunday, of all days. This was the worst day to do it because of church. But anyway, so the next year, though, was 2019, and that was done in March. And I hadn't started a channel still. This was way before. I had only had the costume, and I decided to go out to this event cosplaying Vert Wheeler. The only person probably in the world that would think this. And I went up to the Dior 2, and I got to take pictures with the Dior 2 as Vert Wheeler, you know. And while I was doing that, I realized no one knew what the heck AcceleRacers was. So I sort of made it a mission later on to get the word out because I was like, people have to know, like we love this stuff. And so, you know, just having a cosplay sitting around wasn't it. So I wanted to really, you know, show up and show out and make sure other people knew that there was fans out there. And so what I ended up doing was starting a channel. I mean, my first video was actually first merch because I wanted to sell the shirts because I was just trying to make some money. And I thought, well, I could promote the shirts on YouTube and try to do that. So I started doing that as well. And I mean, that's sort of how it started. Spoilers, if you know Spoilers, he really got me into YouTubing because he first started doing a lot of YouTube stuff and sort of got me motivated to start doing stuff like that.
Is he another Hot Wheels guy?
He is another Hot Wheels guy. He hasn't been super active recently, but I know he's going to come back pretty soon. Me and him played a lot of Forza Hot Wheels together. I think we had a couple videos on it. And he's in California, so it's a little harder to do any collabs as far as in-person collabs. But we plan to do something, I hope. This is a very, very hope. For Legends Tour this year, because I know he's going to submit his Buick Skylark. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, if you haven't checked out Spoilers, he made the AcceleRacers Makes No Sense series, which was really good. So
that's awesome, man.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm ready to learn a bit today more about the Hot Wheels experience, you know, because I had them as a kid. I had the tracks, never watched the movies. I actually watched them all last week. But you and Zeth have for far longer been more into it. So I'm ready. So they're fresh in my mind, you know. I watched all the AcceleRacers, all the Cartoon Network shorts.
I forced him to.
You didn't force me to.
Good job,
but
good job.
Yeah.
I must say, to start it out, I was actually impressed with how likable it was. It's not just a kids show. They actually treat it like it's more than just, you know, mindless children's entertainment. They actually cared about the story.
Yeah. Zeth, I'm gonna let you talk a little because
No, that's fine. I like your story. Your story is very interesting because I have the exact same story when it comes to you, and I think it's really cool. We're gonna have a lot of fun today because we each have different growing up, like watching this entertainment. Like Jace, obviously you never did, but you still played Hot Wheels. Justin, you grew up with it. This is your content now. You love talking about this constantly. Me, I grew up with this. This was my life when I was a kid. But now I can just kind of watch it and appreciate it. But I still I'm like you, where I want to tell people about this. The reason I'm making this big video is kind of like I did for Speed Racer or Voltron. The content that's out there for this is good, but some stuff like just doesn't mesh with my opinion of the topic. So I just want to put my opinion out there and tell my story about this. But my story is a lot like yours. I grew up with the VHS tape. But I loved trains as a kid. So trains are what kind of slowly inched me into liking Hot Wheels. And then once I liked Hot Wheels, I got into the VHS tapes of Hot Wheels. I didn't know this at the time, but I didn't grow up watching syndicated television, so I didn't know there was a sequel series till years later. Years later. So all of a sudden, my dad was a big fan of the World Race VHS tape. He'd watch it with me every once in a while. All of a sudden, my mother came home from the library and she's like, "Hey, I got this Hot Wheels DVD." It was Breaking Point. We put it in, and we both freaked out because, you know, it's the iconic shot of Vert Wheeler on the beach, and we were like, "Oh my goodness, it continues?" And then that's the one where it flashes back through all like the flashbacks of the other shows, and we were freaking out even more because we're like, "There's more?" So yeah, that's how we kind of discovered the shows and started to like them, and it's something that I've watched at least once a year from the time that I've watched it. But everything that also I loved about the shows, I also critique with everything nowadays. So it's the whole reason I love Speed Racer. It's the reason I love the intro to Ready Player One. I didn't like that movie all the way through, but that intro with the car race.
Oh yes, that is good. That is good.
In the theater,
Yeah.
I was having a heart attack. But it's literally the whole reason I love car movies now today. Ford v Ferrari, gorgeous in the movie theater.
That is probably best normal racing movie.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I love this so much, and I just want to put it in a way where if someone was to recommend, okay, you should watch Hot Wheels World Race, and someone just wanted like someone else's opinion, but also like a giant retrospective, I'm leaving nothing out in this video. When I say that, I say it. It's not until the 32-minute mark that I actually start giving my opinion on the first movie.
Highway 35, baby.
Whoa.
Everything else is like the story of how I grew up with Hot Wheels, the story behind the first movie, and then that's when I start giving my opinion about the movie. And then, I mean, obviously you have everything else afterwards that came after. Yeah. But when I say I'm leaving nothing out in this video, I am leaving nothing out.
Awesome. That's
It is very good.
Oh, hey, one thing I didn't know, because you've been in the community for quite some time, something that really helped me to actually watch the movies in general was somebody uploaded like all of them to the Internet Archive in about 2019. Was that always the case? You know, was there always spots to watch them? Because
so the original, here's a real interesting story. So originally the movies were actually free on YouTube since 2011, I'd say. It wasn't until last year Mattel subsidiary Hit Entertainment, which owns also Thomas the Tank Engine, decided they wanted to take down every single Hot Wheels movie, and it struck a bunch of YouTubers. So so we've been using footage of the movies for years without any consequence, right? Because we're using it in fair use, obviously, as well, but because it was YouTube copyright, they basically were able to match it botly.
You get affected by it too bad?
You know what's interesting? I didn't, because I've stayed away from using movie stuff at the moment, because I never really made specific content that like talked about them. And so in retrospect, I'm almost glad that I didn't just yet, because I had a Vert Wheeler essay coming out soon, and that didn't work out. So
weirdly enough, like, I've been slowly uploading like my video just to check if there's copyright issues. It hasn't struck anything yet.
That's good.
Smash Mouth by the Smash Mouth Hot, not struck.
That definitely will get struck.
It will.
That's 100% getting struck. I know, because we have a cover of it that got struck.
Oh really?
One of the fans made a cover of it, and it got struck. But it didn't get struck, like it's shared. But I mean, that's basically, you're losing half your money. But either way, it's better if at least you're not totally out of it, like Hit Entertainment was doing. So they took down all the movies, including the high-res 4K versions.
I was very mad about that.
1080p ones. Now, if I'm honest, they look good and bad at the same time. It's like, yay, it's higher res. Oof, that's some bad interlacing. So honestly, the best way to watch them is DVDs. But we don't always have access to that, especially around the world. They don't have access to a lot of that stuff. But you know, it's just the archive on Web Archive, to put simply, wasn't always there, and thank God someone uploaded it, because otherwise it'd be a little more fishy trying to share the movies. It still is. I mean, there's no official way to release or watch them other than DVDs and archive.
And they're expensive too. I looked them up for Jace because I was like trying to figure out a way, and it's like $20 a movie. It's like, what?
It's because the AcceleRacers community doesn't really understand. You know what? I'll just say
$600 for a car. Are you kidding me?
we're kind of weird in value. I think originally the Ultimate Race DVD was going for $100 for a while. I don't know why, because it's
all
actually,
of those still.
I don't know why that one specifically was going for $100, but on eBay it was ridiculous. Please get off of eBay if you're buying DVDs. Get off. They're just shooting up the price. It's pretty bad. I've been trying to, all of us really have been trying to tell Mattel, hey, release these on something, please, officially.
I would love them to do a new line of the cars too, like a re-release, because I wanted to get like a Vert Wheeler Dior too, because that was my car growing up as well. Same thing with Nolo's
the Synchro?
Yeah, the Dragon one. That one was mine also growing up. And I just always thought it was so... Oh, you got him right there?
Oh, I got the Dior 2 right here.
Oh, that's so cool!
Yeah, there you go. Wave Rippers Dior 2. I've got it in a little case with some sticky tack to make sure it doesn't move around too much. So
yeah, so when I was a kid, I never could collect the cars, because when I got into World Race, it was around 2005. So the toy line had been disconnected.
Yeah,
Same thing with AcceleRacers.
Yeah.
So whenever I collected the cars, I would have to try and find ones that were repaints, or the really expensive ones where it was like $20 for a really nice car that was a Dior 2. I remember some of those, and you could like flip open the entire car.
Yeah.
But I always thought it'd be cool if they would go back and do it, because I was shocked when I was doing the research for this video. I was like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to get like an inbox car for both of those. And then I looked at the prices. I'm like, $60, $150. Oh,
yeah. I'll tell you, even it didn't used to be like that. About right when I started YouTube, I mean, a carded World Race card cost you $5-10.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I mean, there's still some of the rarer ones, like Power Rocket was still about 50, but now it's like 110 and 200, and I can't collect the full set anymore. In fact, I only ever had Crazy Eights and Wild Thing. No, not Wild Thing. Motocross as originals. So I collected all of the other ones, 5 years ago, practically. But I'm still missing some of the most expensive ones that are like $200-300 now. I'm just like, I'm good. I'm okay. I'll live without them.
Whenever I show like a clip of like whenever I'm talking about like the cars or something like that in the video, I'm having to use other people's clips because I'm not paying $150 for a 50-cent Hot Wheel.
Yeah, all the kind of niche collectible stuff just in the past recent years has just been insane. I'll walk into a store and I'll see a big old line at the, back by the electronics section. I remember walking up one time and then I'm like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, oh, we're waiting for Pokemon cards. And it's like, you're all like 40, but okay. It's like,
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's the same thing in the Hot Wheels community. Everybody's like, oh, I actually have one. How much can I, get out of it?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Including Hot Wheels cards. Even those go pretty expensive.
Yeah, I wanted to try the game and I couldn't.
Yeah. I've got the game right here, but the cards, luckily I bought those again like 5 years ago for $30 for like a bunch of just different random ones, right? And now it costs you, since they only release them once, I mean it costs you like $100 per card sometimes for some of those, and that's for a card. That's not for
I know
a physical.
Do they have a way? Is somebody like reprinting those?
No. I mean
seems like a really lucrative thing to do.
Actually, I mean, well, we let's see, legal, but we are working. I mean, there is the virtual card game on Tabletop Sim, so we have uploaded everything there. including an expansion on there from a fan expansion that I helped make. But
Jace,
yeah.
I know what we're gonna do tomorrow.
Yeah,
What?
so if you have tabletop sim, you can play the game.
Okay.
The only thing is, it's not as fun because I mean you get every single rare card you can, right? And that's not as interesting if you can do that. But you know, if you limit yourself, say 1 foil per deck, right? Then it's a little more fun, and that way you don't have to go super crazy or something. I don't know.
See, I don't even know about the card game. Is it like
Oh, geez, Jace, we're like completely getting you out of the loop.
You know,
man.
we haven't even talked about the movies. I just want to say
I know.
we're just talking about the fandom right now. So
Well, it's
Hey,
such
I'm down
it's
for
such
it.
a cool fandom though. Like it's such an intriguing fandom compared to most fandoms
mhm.
because it's so like small still. It's
Yep.
it's kind of the same thing with like the Speed Racer movie where it's still like a very small centered community.
Yeah, I'd say the same about Bionicle. I think Hot Wheels has, or I should say, I think Hot Wheels AcceleRacers has the same potential as Bionicle does right now, where Lego's bringing, you know, just little things out, and it's selling like hotcakes, and everyone's like, wait, why is it selling like hotcakes? Maybe because 70,000 people said it was good, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's worldwide is something I have noticed. It's definitely worldwide. I mean, people, you look at my demographic of watchers, Brazil, Mexico are the 2 biggest ones other than America, including, I think, Norway, England, Australia, Japan, surprisingly. Apparently it was super popular in Japan. I didn't even know that because they're
Really?
the only country that didn't get a dub of the movies. A lot of these countries, France got a dub, French Canadian, so Canada sort of has it as well. Spain, I mean, it's literally worldwide. Germany, they had an exclusive skateboard for Germany, right? Like, this is insane type of level of fandom where this thing went worldwide and then it was just dropped and we're like, forget it, we don't really care anymore. It's like, you can't do that, unfortunately, with the internet.
Mhm.
The internet remembers.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
So Jace, let's actually get your opinion because me and Justin, we love these movies. We absolutely adore them. We grew up with them. You're a person that was just introduced to this series a month ago. What is your, what's going through your mind? Because there's a lot to tackle with this series.
Now you had me watch Highway 35 as a beginning, and it was all right. It was perfectly fine, but I'm like, I don't, that one's a little bit hard to see. It's like, okay, what exactly about this besides nostalgia do you like? And so, weeks later, I'm like, hey, I have some time today. I'm gonna watch the rest of them. And it's still a kid's cartoon, sure, but those had a lot more to them, a lot better writing, a lot better everything. They actually had an overarching plot, and I think that it's a great example of something that's sorely missing from a lot of kids' content. I think they've been better about it over years, but I did enjoy the movies. I thought that they had a good balance of some serious topics and moments and cool races. I liked the format. There was actually a lot to love. I do understand now why you appreciate it so much.
Well,
and I must say, there's a lot of memorable moments. There's just things that I think back on, and I'm like, that was actually super funny. And characters that I'm like, wow, they're actually like I just genuinely think that they're funny characters. Do you have a personal favorite character, Zeth? Personally,
man, that's a hard one. I mean, there's just so many memorable characters. I mean, probably my favorite when I was a kid was Pork Chop and Monkey. But also, I didn't just like the characters. I also loved the cars they drove. So if like a character had a really cool car, like Vert Wheeler wasn't my favorite character, but he had the coolest cars in my opinion. So that's why I liked him so much. Same thing goes for like someone like Torque. I thought his car was awesome. Nolo had really cool cars. So I don't necessarily have like a favorite character because they're all so good and well done in my opinion. They're just all really good.
yeah.
About you,
Vert
Justin?
Wheeler. It's Vert Wheeler.
It's
like,
Vert?
what do you want me to say? Like, it's Vert Wheeler.
My
I mean, I've got
Yeah,
Okay, why?
I agree
Why?
with it. To an
Okay, so
extent. Go ahead.
I
go ahead.
mean, to be fair, his relationship with his father is one of my favorites. Because I had sort of a similar relationship with my father, in that he's a police officer, so I sort of understand what it's like, to have my father be out a lot and not really always be with him all the time. So I think he just resonated with me, especially with the whole, the Dior too, and that as well, I guess.
Mhm.
But I think it's also learning how to be a part of a team. To be fair, I really like World Race. It's actually my favorite out of all 5.
Really?
Yeah, World Race is my favorite out of
Is
all
that the
of them.
first one or the
That's
the
the
second
first
or the
one. That's
fifth?
Highway 35.
Oh, Highway 35.
Yeah, it's technically like 4 episodes, but they
Mhm.
put it all in one movie, so it's probably why it was a little more lengthy if you watch it in a movie format. But I have no problem watching it like constantly. But that movie is very simple, but it gets the point across very well, I think. And it just, Vert Wheeler stuck with me. I always wanted to be him when I was a kid, and I was like, that right there, I could do that.
Yeah.
I can see how to be better with others. I can see how to be a better person and all that, and work on a team.
Yeah,
So,
it's a simple character, but it's effective. Like he
super.
starts off like wanting to be the best,
Super
wanting to be a
cocky.
loner. Yeah. And then at the
Yeah.
end, he becomes more humble, he becomes a team player. He
Yeah.
cares about his team, and it's a slow development throughout. It's not
Mhm.
just like, "Oh, I got a team now. Let's do this," or what.
Yeah.
It's slowly throughout, and that's what I
Yeah.
like. So I agree with you.
I love the character progression. I like that there's like rival gangs almost. I like that they both have different relationships, like the brothers, and it was like the third or fourth out of the 5th movies. It's Vert, and he just leaves on that motorcycle.
Oh yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
not necessarily the most nuanced, subtle take on various things, but they do get the point crossed, and it's like, I like that he left. I like that he had some conflict, and it's not. It helped break things up, and it helped him as a character. I feel, in a way that's pretty digestible. I think for the target audience, especially, it's like you don't want anything that's too crazy for some kids, but it's like he gets it. He's like he struggles with some things, and I think they brought about that in a good place. I really liked that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it comes to Vert is relatable to almost everyone because he struggles with self-doubt, which is a big one. I think a lot of people have self-doubt after they succeed at some of the best, like they could do the best thing ever, and then they start failing, and then that's why Vert comes back on top, and that's without like a true father figure. Still, like I said, his father is one of the more interesting characters in it, because in the very beginning of World Race, like, you don't hate Vert, like you don't hate him. He just, he's a little cocky, but you don't hate him or anything. He doesn't come across as like malicious or evil.
Mhm.
And so
He's
it
just
just
a
seems
kid.
like, he's a kid, and he's pretty much alone for his whole life, and he's just like coming out of everything, and he's like, well, I won this race, and then he tries to join something else after World Race, after the whole team split and everything, and he comes to the Teku, and then even in the Teku, he's not really welcome. You can see Nolo has a problem with him because Nolo sees him as a potential threat in his leadership, and so he's like, hey, I don't care what type of leader you were before, I'm the leader now, and so Vert's not even trying to be argumentative or anything. He was just like, hey, I can help here, I'm a team player, let me in. He's like, nah, so it's I guess that's why I like Vert. There you go. That's why I like Vert.
Those
that's
are
a great
really
reason.
great reasons.
I'm glad you have a good connection with. I'm glad, like, that helps you appreciate this stuff even more, is when you can kind of relate to it. It's something you could appreciate, as even still now. It's that being said, as I watched this, a couple weeks ago, I think the absolute greatest character in that show is Tesla, the scientist guy.
A lot of people love Tesla.
For being a children's cartoon, he's not just like, he's not good, he's not evil. He's probably the most nuanced villain I was not expecting that, but I love that you just never knew what he was doing. He always just had something about him. You never knew like if this was in anybody's best interest but him, or if he actually cared about anything. That was awesome, but he was still on their side. I've never seen. That's probably the best villain. Slash, I don't even know what you'd call him.
So, I mean, I'll speak a little on Tesla because I just had a conversation with the creator, and he and Tesla were not, or Tesla was supposed to be a very different character. In World Race, he's actually supposed to be a unifying character in all of this. Like he's a little aggressive, but he's supposed to be unifying the world in this race. And in the sequel movies, they took him out of the picture, so they just kept the same writer, but they didn't keep they kept one of the same writers, which was Mark Edens, and Jeff was taken out. And so they took Tesla much darker than he probably should have been, but it still works in a way.
I think it was personally the right call. I thought it was great.
For a lot of older kids especially kids growing up with it, I think it made sense. But it was supposed to be like he wants to save humanity so much that he doesn't trust anybody else to do it, so he ends up becoming a loner in himself, and he becomes the very thing he is afraid of, which is, corruption in the human spirit. And so he becomes afraid of his own issues, and so that's why he's so hell-bent on stopping the drones and everything, and trying to meet the AcceleRacers, because he doesn't know anyone else that can do it, really. And it's only until the end that he trusts Vert to do it. Specifically because Vert has a connection with not just his dad, but his grandpa, who's also part of it. So, funnily enough, there's another cartoon series you don't probably even know. It's the 68 cartoon is canon.
Okay, I've seen... Wait, what?
So, yeah, so I we knew about this, sort of, but Jeff had found the 68 cartoon while in his research for the show. And now the 68 cartoon also had comics. So they actually took that same character called Jack Wheeler.
Oh!
And he's the grandpa of Vert Wheeler. So not only did they make a movie that was standalone, if you really dig deep, you can find even more Hot Wheels media that was all part of it.
Dude, you're adding more to my video, man. Come on, I'm already at 3 hours and 30 minutes.
Sorry, you got it. Hey, I told you got to watch those Jeff Gomez podcasts because
I did watch the first
second one.
Because
the second one, man.
I didn't realize you had a second one.
Just released it. Yeah, it was last week. I think I released it.
Holy moly!
It was mind blowing, especially in time. Well, number one, we went behind the scenes on the science. How does the world work? Then we went on about who Vert Wheeler is actually, and who Dr. Tesla is. And Dr. Tesla and Vert are the main two characters, I think, that are very important. I think if you ever seen Nolo's video on it, he did a good retrospective on Dr. Tesla as like a Dr. Frankenstein type of character.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, he is a cool guy, and I thought he had good chemistry with who's the one woman that kind of
Lonnie?
She was
Tom.
Was that Lonnie?
Tom.
She stayed behind, and
Yes.
I liked them arguing and just trying to. Sometimes she'd be like, this doesn't feel right. This is, and sometimes she'd go along with it. Sometimes she wouldn't. But I feel like that was a good. Like eventually, like things reached a boiling point almost. Like they're like, we have to tell people this. We have to let them know what's going on. Because I mean, if you think about it, like those first movies are kind of, or at least the second movie in the series, it's kind of evil. He's like, they didn't tell him about the hour time limit at all. Like that's
why when I did my trailer edits, I was only planning on doing one at first, and I was going to do all the movies in the Wakanda Forever trailer. But then I realized, because I rewatched them over and over again for the trailer edits, and I realized AcceleRacers gets dark. Like not like super like PG-13, but like for a kid's cartoon, I mean, it plays with some dark themes and stuff like that. And then World Race is more the cartoony, you know, over the top, like, oh yay, we're going 300 miles per hour, woo!
Yeah.
So that's why I separated the two, and there's like, I just appreciated like how much more mature the story went, not just with its themes, but also it matured the characters. So for instance, Vert Wheeler, he's got, you know, I mean, it's stupid to say, but he's got facial hair and stuff like that. He's grown as a character. Same thing with Dr. Tesla. Like the series literally starts out with him getting disabled and getting in a car crash, and that's how he gets to have cybernetic parts. And then you have it with Mark Wilde's brother, or Marky. You know, he went to jail with his brother, and his brother got out, but he didn't. So in prison, he changed as a completely different character.
Yeah,
that was a good addition. I liked that they held that over him for a while.
He's a bit much, but yeah, it's fine. I guess it's almost like
you don't like that.
It's sort of. I'd say it sort of. I don't like him that much because he sort of hates Vert, and I'm like, bro, how do you hate Vert, bro? He's the one that gave you a shot, you know. But at the same, like, he didn't have anything to do with you going to jail. But it's sort of, it makes sense because Marky's always been a punk and always goes over the top. So when he went to prison, of course he's gonna go over the top as a prisoner, right?
Sure.
I just think it's a little overbearing, but it's fine. You know, like I said, World Race, I actually like it a lot better. I don't like Kadeem dying, but
yeah, that was shocking when I was a kid. Because
everything that happened with him across all the movies was just
like he's getting tortured, and then all of a sudden it shows like he's getting like his head and arms removed, and it's like, whoop.
And then the implications at the end of the last movie, I'm like, there has to be a but I'm like watching it, I'm like, holy moly, he just jumped, and it's just funny especially if you're a kid, it's like the implications of it's just, I know there's supposed to be more, but I'm like, it's just crazy that they went there.
You know, we talk about death in kids shows, but one of the best ones was Puss in Boots: Last Wish. Very good movie.
I have yet to watch that.
You haven't watched it? I will not say anything else. I am sorry. I am stopping right there. Unfortunately, but it would segue pretty well.
I didn't like the first one that much, and I wasn't.
Yeah, no. You don't have to watch Shrek. You don't have to watch anything. This movie is like the best movie DreamWorks has put out in years, since like
really
How to Train Your Dragon 1. Oh yeah.
We liked.
This was 100 out of 10. Like
I was cheering the Bad Guys.
So hard.
Was it better than that?
Oh, Bad Guys has got nothing on this. Like,
shoot,
I didn't even like Bad Guys that much. Like, Puss in Boots is solid. It is stinking solid. I mean,
all right. I guess Jace will have to do a video on that.
Yeah, please,
yeah,
because
we'll
that is.
sure.
I can't believe you haven't seen it yet. Oh,
I mean,
darn.
I saw like the good reviews and stuff like that, but I mean, it's like it's Puss in Boots. It's
no. It's so good.
Okay. We'll watch it.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Maybe we'll have you on back for that.
Sure.
Are you much of a? Are you into that kind of sphere as well? Especially like animated movies and whatnot, or just movies in general?
I'd say I watch animation every now and then. It just really depends. It takes a lot out of me to go and watch a movie at all anymore. I think I've been disillusioned to Marvel. I've been disillusioned to DC.
Okay, you know what you do? Do? You watch Bollywood movies.
I'm okay on those.
No.
No,
RRR.
Now is not the time to start.
RRR.
Okay.
You gotta watch RRR.
I'm okay. Anyway,
darn.
So I mean, I watched up to Infinity War, and I think that was about it. I think after that, Marvel has dropped so hard.
I'll tell you what, you're not missing much.
Yeah, it's been difficult with Marvel. I got a lot of flack for my She-Hulk video because I really didn't like anything Marvel's really put out lately. There's been a few things.
No, you got a lot of flack because you did like She-Hulk.
I was about to say. I don't know how you did that. I don't know.
Yeah, he
what
somehow
you did.
managed to be wrong.
Bro,
it's just hilarious.
I liked it though. It was fun.
Took a little too much Tylenol.
It was fun.
Okay.
It was fun. As long as you can have fun with the movie. It's the same thing with the video game. I could care less what anyone else thinks about a movie or a video game.
Yeah.
As long as I have fun with it, that's all
fine.
that matters.
That's fine.
And I can explain that.
That's
But
fine.
I mean, I do understand why people didn't like it. It's not that I'm saying it was the greatest thing of all time.
You enjoyed it, is all you're saying.
Yeah, I acknowledge that in the video, but I just
Yeah.
explained like why I liked it, and yeah.
I think the biggest issue is just continuity for Marvel now, because they
When
did
I-
time travel and they screwed everything up.
I couldn't believe the drop. I watched Marvel movies all through my childhood, from Iron Man
Yeah.
to Endgame. Loved them. Saw them the moment they came out. I was there, and then as soon as Endgame ended, I'm like, oh, I'm sure they'll have something next, you know.
Yeah.
And I could not be bothered to watch a single Marvel TV show. Could not be bothered. They are just.
I forced
thing that-
myself through Winter Soldier because I love Captain America. Captain America is still my favorite Marvel film. The first one.
Mhm.
First Avengers. Still my
It's a
favorite.
good one.
And I just could not stand it. I was like, wow, this is just a horrible show.
I
Really?
got
couldn't
like
get
2
through it.
episodes in, and I'm like,
It's
it gonna
bad.
get-
I
forced my
love
way
the Winter
through-
Soldier and Falcon.
No, I forced my way through it. There's some good moments. I like. Funnily enough, Zemo is the best character in it. He's the
Yeah, when
most
he's
likable.
dancing.
Yeah, he's the most likable. Like out of all the good guys, it's the bad guy I like. Why? Like why is
Because he's
he the-
intriguing. Why is he
Yeah,
helping out the main characters?
Well, I think
you're
it's
more
more
like
like
me.
I think he was right. I think he was the only one that's right. He's like, no more Captain Americas, guys. No more. And
Yeah,
everyone's
so
like,
you're-
nah. We want
You're
1,000
a lot
Captain
like
Americas.
Jace. You're a lot like Jace. I have to
I'm
force
like-
him to watch a lot of movies.
Yeah.
Seth recommends me a lot of movies, is all I'm saying, and they're of questionable quality most of the
Yeah.
time.
Well,
I'm
luckily,
glad you liked
Speed
this when you were
Racer
10, but
and Hot Wheels is just fine. Speed Racer
Yep.
especially is probably the best anime film ever. Anime
I
live
consider-
action.
I do not take that lightly when I say I consider that the greatest movie of all time. I do not
Speed
take
Racer.
that lightly.
I can
yes.
see that. I can definitely see that. It's definitely
I
up there.
consider that the greatest movie of all time from its characters, its story, its action, every single catalog of a movie you could hit. It nails everything.
Mm.
And it just
It's
every
fair.
time I watch it once a month. I know that sounds nuts, but it's my favorite of all time.
You don't understand. I have a Blu-ray. I understand. I
Oh,
watch
okay.
it all the time. Yeah,
I
a
have
Blu-ray.
like
Don't
5
worry.
different versions of it, so I mean that's also the
I got one with Blockbuster stickers on it too.
Really, that's really
yeah.
cool.
Oh yeah, it doesn't play Casa Cristo anymore. It won't play Casa Cristo's race.
Oh,
it
it
always
does the whole
skips
skipping.
it skips the entire sequence. I'm like,
Man,
where's the rest of my movie? So I had
Yeah.
to buy another movie of it. So
I have like a streaming version that I have like across like different
Oh, yeah.
versions, so
That
that
makes sense.
I watch it mostly that way because it's
Yeah.
the highest quality. I'm kind of disappointed they haven't come out with a 4K version yet.
I'm super shocked actually that like I said, Warner Brothers, I'm gonna fight you, man.
I want my 4K version.
me and
Yeah.
Zeth
We're
likes
the
a lot of
complete
older
opposite.
things, personally. Like he'll like, I love this from my childhood. Like when he showed me Speed Racer, I'm like, you know what? It's all right.
You were talking trash
It's
on the
all right.
Sound of
I
Music.
said,
Whoa! How do you
Wait,
hate Sound of Music? Whoa!
before I watched it, I never got to the second half. I'm always like, it's all just roses and kittens and something. I don't remember how the song goes.
No, you forgot about intermission. These are older movies.
I didn't get to the intermission because I was a kid.
You
and
didn't make it to
bored.
intermission.
No, it's like a 3-hour movie. But
Yeah, that's a good film.
That's a funny one.
I
If
don't
you
even
ever
know
want to watch
how-
a funny podcast, that's one of
I'll
our
definitely
best.
have to check that one out. Sorry.
My favorite
Continue.
part of we did a podcast on Speed Racer shortly after he released his retrospective, and I still to this day don't exactly know how he feels about me saying that Speed Racer and Cars 2 have the exact same story, beat
It
for beat.
doesn't. What do
I
you?
go-
You compare
Look-
everything to Cars 2. Though
That's,
you're like, yeah.
that's some
So it's a-
juicy, not correct at all.
Listen, hear me out. It's a racing movie, but all of a sudden it's a spy thriller about cars. And then like while these races are going on, this building up to the big race, which is actually being everybody who's invested in the race is actually evil, and they want to keep racing the way it was.
That's not even the plot of Cars 2, though.
Yes, it is. He wants
No,
oil.
the plot of Cars
oil.
2. No.
Listen, I have my
Oil.
notes. I'll have to show you some
Mhm.
other time. But
No,
I make
don't
a very
think
compelling argument.
about the
see
plot.
what I got to deal with
You
here,
don't have
Justin.
Mater though. Mater is
which is why it is. Well, you have Chim Chim. I don't think you're that far
Chim
off.
is great. Are you serious? Chim Chim throws a Chim Chim cookie at the
Yes!
villain. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for actually understanding.
I mean, here's the thing. If anyone copies anyone, it's Cars 2 copying Speed Racer, because Speed Racer has been always this since the 60s.
And here's the thing. I've always defended Cars 2. I think it's funny every time I watch it. So I'm not even dogging Speed Racer.
Funny bad or funny good?
It's funny. There's just things that happen. Some things
funny?
aren't meant to be funny, but they are.
People actually love Cars 2. I've seen a lot of growth of kids that love that movie because of the spy stuff of Finn McMissile is why.
Even the animation was trash.
It was not. It was just fine. I just thought the whole experience was funny, but I'm not going into Cars 2 again. I did enough of that in the other one.
It's fine. We're not gonna talk about it.
Every single podcast, he brings up a way to bring up that stupid movie. We were watching Over the Top one time, and he's like, "Yeah, Sylvester Stallone, Finn McMissile."
I don't know what Over the Top is. I know what Over the Hedge is, though.
No, I'm with you too. I love Over the Hedge. I don't blame you for never seeing Over the Top.
Over the Hedge is a funny film. It's bad. It's funny though.
Is it bad? I have not seen that since I was a kid.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but the animation quality is not up to par with anything.
You know, I could see that being the case. You know,
it's all a heist to get some cheese. It's literally Pringles. We want Pringles.
Machine,
Let's get the
remember.
Pringles, and it's just a war between the household buying Pringles and the hedge. You know, anyway,
and the gang.
That's a total offshoot. The Hot Wheels.
Oh man,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Let's run it back.
You know what? Let's actually talk about the animation with Hot Wheels because
that's a good point. It hasn't aged as bad as I thought it would. I'll give it that. Some things actually looked, kind of decent for the time.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I noticed while I was rewatching it is I think AcceleRacers is the one that aged the worst because with World Race, you have that cell shaded, like the dark lines around all the characters, and I think that made the animation a little more digestible in my opinion. I'm not saying like the human characters are the most animated, like sure, it's the early 2000s, but then I was like, when I was doing my research, I noticed a lot of like early CGI movies, like what are they, the Lego movies. Remember the early Lego movies? Those are awful as in terms of their animation. Same thing with Disney's very first animated movie. A lot of people mix it up with Meet the Robinsons, but it's actually this other one called Valkyrie or something like that. It's a bird movie.
Chicken Little?
No, but it was before any of those.
Oh.
First CGI one. It has the worst animation you will ever see on a 3D animated one. And this was around the same time. Hot Wheels has better animation.
Is that Home on the Range? No, that's 2D. Never mind.
No, this was after Home on the... What is it?
Home on the Range was pretty bad.
Yeah, that one's bad. But this is a 3D animated. Just look up Valkyrie. It's got Ewan McGregor in it as the main bird.
Interesting.
Awful animation.
Interesting.
But I think World Race looks best as in terms of its overall animation, like its characters and its car scenes. But I think AcceleRacers still has the best car animation.
So wait. Just to make sure it's we're at the same page. World Race is Highway 35, and then AcceleRacers is the next one. Just making sure.
Yes.
I thought so,
but. So I'd say the car motion in World Race is better, but I'd also say that I showed the film to kids and they love it. They didn't see any problem. I tried showing an old Barbie movie to them that I don't know if y'all ever seen those old Barbie movies that are around the same time, the Fairytopia ones. Anyway, see Jace is maybe smiling. I don't know if he remembers them or not.
watched my sister would watch the show from later years, and I actually thought it was hilarious at the time.
Well,
Still
anyway,
do.
they have an older version of it anyway called Fairytopia, which is like a 4-part series, movie series of Barbie, and it did not age at all well compared to Hot Wheels. I mean, everyone was like, "Ew, what is this?" You know, like how kids are. They're like, "Ew, ew, ew, ew."
Well, Hot Wheels is at least exciting.
They never turn. No, well, I'm just saying in terms of just the quality of the face.
Oh.
You know, the character models. They complained the heck out of Barbie. I showed them Hot Wheels. They didn't even care. They were like, "Oh, this is sick," you know.
Mhm.
I thought it was I thought it was just fine. They weren't insanely expressive. It's to be expected at the time,
Yeah.
but you know they did their job pretty well. I feel they
Yeah.
it's I was at the time because you know it's like I'm like okay, it's an animated movie from 2005. It's gonna look like I don't know some animated movie that I Hate Everything or somebody's gonna review at some point.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It
Probably.
looks pretty good. I didn't notice any animation errors, no like weird clipping. Everything just
Ooh,
looked.
well. There's a lot.
There's a lot of errors.
Oh, there's so much animation errors.
Huh.
In a part of World Race, they just swap out the cars. the car will
Really?
be slingshot, then it's side draft, and then slingshot, and it's side draft, but no one cares because you don't notice it unless you're
I
really
didn't
paying
notice that.
attention.
I didn't.
You see, you wouldn't notice it until you notice it, and there's
Are you
a part.
talking about the
It's in the ice.
Z36?
It's in the ice. Yeah, well, it's when Vert and Kurt are racing at the end of the ice, but because he changes back to purple, they swapped it out accidentally for side draft. So on screen there are two side drafts racing each other with Diora 2, and it's just hilarious because like you wouldn't notice as a kid. You're not even paying attention. It's just purple and green. It looks right, you know. So there's also that, but it's just funny. There's a couple of little animation errors, which is fine, but there's also animation wins, which is there's a check that's given out, right? You would think they just put a random texture on it. No, the texture says Jack. Who is Jack? It's Jack Wheeler. He's from the 60s cartoon.
Huh.
You know, like stuff like that is like,
that is cool.
holy crap, that was for 0.5 seconds, and you made that texture for this? Like, what? Why?
Yeah,
You know,
like
so
little
there's-
subtle details.
Yeah, so there is good details. There's also, you know, they were making it really fast, and it was really cheap comparison. According to Jeff.
I
This was
love the
really
story behind it. It is probably the coolest story I can ever tell in a retrospective because Jace, I know I kind of abbreviated when I found out like how it is, but they took Barbie movies and they they reused the assets for this movie, and they had
Yep.
like 5 months to script it, get it out the door.
Yep.
So you're
It
saying
was insane.
oh, that would be
including-
sweet if they're in the same universe. Is all I'm saying. It's like
What, Barbie and Hot Wheels?
hey, it's
No,
the
they're
same
not,
place.
They're not.
I know.
They're not. But what's interesting is not just Barbie. It was Max Steel. It was Transformers. Was it Beast Wars? It was anything Mainframe had done. Reboot. A lot of cult classics. The dinosaur in Hot Wheels World Race is Megatron. If you didn't know.
Seriously, that's crazy.
That's the Megatron dinosaur from Beast Wars, and I think
gotta
I
add
only
some
found
more
that out
stuff.
recently for Vulcan Vugan, and we actually tweeted out to the voice of Megatron from Beast Wars, and he liked that. And if you didn't know, he also voices Pork Chop. So, you know,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah. So it's just really neat. That's David Kay. He also does Clank. I don't know if you've ever played Ratchet and Clank, but he's also from that.
Oh, he's Clank. Wait,
Whoa, whoa,
seriously?
whoa, whoa, whoa! Pork Chop's
Yeah.
Clank?
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't know that?
What?
He's
They're-
also
they're-
Megatron and a bunch
they're-
of other things. Yeah.
They're a tad different in terms of character, so I never really put two and two together.
Yeah.
But-
that's the voice actor for you. They're good.
That is that. Yeah, he did solid.
That's me and
yeah.
Jace's jam right there.
I love me some
Ratchet and Clank? Heck
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I got every single game. I even have the PS5 game without a PS5.
Oh, do ya? I still have to beat it, but
I don't have a PS5, but I
I know,
bought the
tell me
game.
about it. This lucky dog has an Xbox Series X and a PlayStation 5. Don't tell me how he got them. I still have yet to see a 5.
I got it launch day, and it just so I'm not gonna get into it, but I had to have my entire place of employment, basically try to get one for me because I tried for months, and
Wow.
somebody finally got one, and I'm like, that was great, that was wonderful. So I got one
Sweet.
launch day. I did not think I'd get one, so
That's tough.
that's just that. When you talk about it, as far as your audience goes, do you think is your audience a lot of people that just likes Hot Wheels in general, or do you find a lot of people who are like, I watched these movies as a kid, I find this interesting, which I feel like a lot of people relate to Zeth with his video. That's why, it's a little bit popular because people remember it. Do you feel it's a lot who's your audience? Do you think for the most part?
It's definitely the latter. It definitely is people just coming back and saying, I used to watch these, I love this, keep doing it. That's probably the biggest amount of comments I get, as far as people that are just discovering me, especially. I met a kid at an event I just went to this last Saturday, and 16 years old. He said, I looked up Hot Wheels AcceleRacers on the internet, and I saw you, and I just thought this was the coolest thing ever. And I was like, that's crazy that I'm, one of the first pop-ups now as a person that's doing this, is that people recognize me as the guy that's been going to these stuff, trying to help them, and that
it is sweet.
It's bringing a tear to my eye. I mean, it really is. It's like,
well, yeah, it's
I
kind of
can't believe
cool. It's like the same thing with speed. Like, I don't mean to like compare myself to you, because I mean we're way lower on the
hey,
YouTube
look, you have more
space
views
than
on
you
that
guys.
video than I have on. I mean, you have more views on that video. I've never succeeded past 20K on a video. So.
Oh really? I thought
Yeah.
like your Diora 2 like had
No,
130.
It's at 18K, I think. But it's like, that's 2 years old,
But you have a really good audience that like sticks with your content.
Yeah,
I've noticed.
Yeah,
That's the
I
one
make
thing
a lot of different stuff. Yeah.
that's really cool.
And one thing I like about that too is with his video, it's nice to have a bit of reinsurance with it, because when that video came out, it did okay, but it was seriously like 3-4 months later that it actually popped off. Like, it was doing nothing for a long time.
Yeah, we had like
so now we're every time
25
something's like,
subscribers, and like the video had like 136 like watches and like 5 likes. I'm like, Jace, I wasted 2 months for nothing. And then all of a sudden he's like, let's just wait. And then like 3 months later, it's like, oh, 50 more views. And then it wasn't until November that we actually started doing good, like gaining some traction. At that point, I think Speed Racer had like 20,000 views, and our channel had like 330 subscribers. And now we're at 1,000 and some, and Speed Racer is almost at 100,000.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's I'm still surprised I haven't hit algorithm, but I guess algorithm hates me, so I'm just gonna.
You will, and you have 4,000 people that are watching you, and probably those people as well shares it with like their friends, and they're like, hey, this guy is really, really cool. Like, that's what I did with you. I discovered you way before you commented on my video.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I learned about that.
Yeah, because I had been in the AcceleRacers space, just not doing anything. Like, I never commented on Reddit or anything. I just kind of was observing from afar, and I would watch the movies. And then I kind of stumbled across your content because I liked that video where you dressed up and like you took the pictures. I thought that was so cool. And then you commented on my video, and I thought that was kind of cool. I said, this guy likes Speed Racer too. And then I was like, oh, why don't I just ask him if he wants to collab? What the heck? I'm like, I'm going to do a video on it. So it's like, well, why not?
And yeah, we really appreciate you hopping on. And just to go back too, you do a lot of events, such like you mentioned, the kid talked to you about it, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's nice to be known as like almost an authority on something like that, just because they know that you know a lot about it. And so, do you do a lot of stuff like that? Do you meet people sometimes?
So when I go to events, I just go actually just for me, really. When I say that, I don't mean like I don't go specifically because I'm doing meet and greets and stuff. Like I'm just going because I'm going.
Yeah.
And I'll put on the costume every now and then. And I think this last event, it wasn't just that kid. I had 2 other people come up to me, probably 2025 or something.
Really?
And they saw the Teku logo and they were like, holy crap, I haven't seen that in years. This stuff's sick, man. This stuff is underrated. They had no idea who I was. They didn't watch any of my videos or anything, but I got to share my videos through that. Same at Comic-Cons and stuff, I'll go to those, and people just, they're like, holy crap, I didn't know that someone out there would even cosplay this, right? So it's like bringing back memories, but as well as just being out there to be representative as much as I can, because I mean, you see all the time people with like, I guess Takumi's tofu shop shirts or something, like everyone's representing other pop culture car brands and everything. So why can't I? You know, why can't
Yeah.
I do Teku and Hot Wheels? Because it's such an underrated niche that is bigger than people realize, only because it hasn't been advertised since 2005. I mean, if you look at the stats on Google Trends, it was insanely high. Even right now, it's still like super low. It's never gotten back to its former glory, right? So I think right now it's just, I go to be a representative, really. And sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes I'll be like, I'll just go low key. But, you know, maybe there's that one guy, and that one guy finally gets to connect again, you know? So that's why I do it.
That's what I noticed with Seth, and I noticed it with you too. Is it is cool being in that spot where you're reminding people of things that they didn't even know they wanted to remember. Almost like it's like, you know, it's like you watch something as a kid and you forget about it, and all of a sudden you see it years later. It's like, oh my gosh, I used to know that. I used to. It's like, I could see that being a really encouraging thing to be. You know, it's person is like, you know, you're doing that for people. It's like, you know, you're kind of making their day almost. It's like, oh, I totally forgot, but you know, hey, that was great as a kid. I want to look more into it. It is a real shame how people think of just kids animation sometimes. Like they just tend to think it's like, oh, it's for kids. And like I said, AcceleRacers did a good job kind of being more than that. But it is a shame that I just feel they don't get as much content and as much of a good story as maybe other mediums. I think they're doing better with it nowadays with maybe certain shows, but you know, I just think it's a shame. I always thought it was a great medium. They're able to show things more than just way more expressively than live action or way more everything else. So yeah, it's just a shame.
Yeah.
So speaking about not finishing a story, what do you guys think about that cliffhanger at the end of this?
Oh, I
it's like
should
the
have
biggest.
That is the best thing ever. I was not ready for that one bit. That was.
You have great. Joined the waiting crew.
Yeah. I was just.
Yeah.
That is so. It was great though. Because that's. I know I didn't bring it up, but it's like. That's what kind of left an imprint in my mind. Is like, where did they pull that out of? Like, that's awesome. Like, that is the. Because the whole time I'm like, who are these people in the purple cars? Like, it's like I get it, but like they never explain them.
And it makes sense. Like, it's built upon the whole series. Like, why is Dad's away so much? And it's like, but then it comes out of nowhere, and then it ends, and you're like, well, wish that kind of continued.
Yeah, and what's cool is that there were supposed to be 4 more movies. And
I was gonna ask you about that. Like, did you know? You talked to the director. Was there supposed to be more? And yeah, 4.
So on Reddit, someone found the director's Twitter and messaged him about, you know, his love for the series and just said, you know, whatever happened. And he doesn't remember much except that there was 4 more movies planned, and that Mama Chop was supposed to be a part of it. Somewhere along the line, that they were actually going to show her. There is also script 5, which was written but probably never approved. A lot of people thought it was never even written, and what happened was, it seems that Mainframe, I guess, gave some type of writing rights back to Mattel, so Mattel went a little more toyish with it and found out the next series of AcceleRacers toys was supposed to be more akin to Battle Force 5.
I'm glad that never went through.
So interestingly enough, I think a lot of, well, and here's the thing, there's also Ben 10 has done the same thing, sort of, but it survived, right? So it probably would have survived just fine in the story, but as far as those toys go, that's where we were supposed to get figures. You're supposed to get, you know, transformable toys, and they did that with Battle Force 5, but AcceleRacers was left on the cutting floor, and they just never brought it up again, and they moved on. Marketing probably just said, we don't want this anymore. We're gonna go to this demographic because this is too dark. And so this was happened that companies like this, I mean, now they just worship babies that love Hot Wheels, you know. Their newest show that's coming out in 2024 is called like Hot Wheels Let's Race, and the characters look like, you know.
Well, that's
like
what happened with
children.
Thomas too. Like they slowly like made it like instead of the
Yeah.
cool
But
models.
that was after
they
the
had.
buyout. I mean, they bought Thomas later.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they bought Thomas, and a lot of Hot Wheels AcceleRacers fans are also Thomas fans, surprisingly, and they
Good.
hate Mattel for what they've done to Thomas. Yeah, I'll say I don't hate Mattel. I'm just disappointed because
That's like a Marvel. You're disappointed.
well, and I don't know about that, but I'm sort of against Marvel at this point. But as far as Mattel goes, I don't hate them because I know people that work there, and I know that there's a lot of good people there that still really like the series and they still enjoy this fandom. But there's just people that don't care, and those people are the people at the top.
I could see it being a tough time for toy sales, and so they might be trying to play for the lowest common denominator, almost trying not to take risks that maybe stuff like that.
Definitely.
I'm not defending it. I'm just saying that's probably
you're
about
correct,
what's right.
and you're correct in that. But
it's just about money. That's all it really is about.
My view is that there is a way to bring it back easily, and it's not the show necessarily, but the toy line. I mean, I think Hot Wheels team has been itching to get Hot Wheels AcceleRacers cars back. They just recently made a CM6 mold, which has been dead for years. So they just made that for Speed Machines, So they made an excuse to bring back a totally different series that use the same wheels because it uses licensed vehicles. And since most collectors like licensed vehicles, it makes sense. But at least we got the wheel back. So now we have a wheel. We have what was the other thing I was thinking of that they made recently? Darn, I can't remember. But they have another thing going on. Like I said, I think they want to bring some diecast form back to life. It's just a matter of if the show will ever get made again, which I don't think it will. I'll keep my hopes high, but I keep them.
I don't think it ever will, to be honest. If it's ever going to come back, I feel like it's going to be in the most subtle way or in a movie. And I don't think even the movie, like, I don't ever really see happening.
Yeah, well, the movie is coming out in 2025, the live
but
action.
But it's just
but
a
that's
Hot
probably
Wheels movie.
Yeah. But I'm thinking if they get smart, they will make it a multiverse movie. Unfortunately, I know multiverse movies aren't always the best, like with the Scooby-Doo one and stuff like that, but I think this one could be because it doesn't have too much to do. All it has to do is just say, at the very end, yeah, we have some type of portal or something, You don't have to even bring it into anything, But just say you have some type of portal, and then Vert Wheeler walks out, Tekuized or Acceleron, and then in the movie, or that could be like an end cutscene. Shoot, who cares,
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of ways. It's either subtle ones, like you create like a new line of Highway 35, just have it be the leaders, but have the die cast be super high quality, maybe $15 a car, just like actual heavy metal. That's one way they could subtly bring it back, but at the same time, it's like it's already been almost 20 years. I doubt,
I'd say the only thing I want really is to bring it back subtly in a comic book fashion. I'd say start it off how it started in World Race. Is just go back to comics, do it small, put it in with the cars, and then see if it catches on again. And if it doesn't, well, you didn't spend $1 trillion on a movie. You just printed a couple of papers, and that was it,
Right.
You already have people willing to make these again. Starlight Runner did it the first time. He wants to do it again. There's no way he doesn't want to pick up Hot Wheels again, because he loved it. It started his company, So here's another fun fact. Hot Wheels started the Marvel Cinematic Universe and parts of the Pirates of the Caribbean.
I have that in my video. It's
you see what I mean?
exciting.
That's just
and also
this is why
if you
I'm
go
like
on
Mattel, the pop culture aspect is insanely high.
If you go on his website, the Starlight Runner Entertainment, he's been a part of a lot of other stuff like Avatar.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
What was it? Need for Speed.
Yeah, he just
different
worked on the new Avatar 2 as well.
Yeah,
Really?
so it's
Yeah.
just like super cool that you can kind of take all these big franchises that Disney has had a hand in, and you
Yeah.
can kind of say like, yeah, Hot Wheels kind of started that.
Yeah, well, it did. That's the crazy thing. And
Yeah.
even, I mean, like I said, they had Deadpool writers, they had good writers, and they knew what they were doing.
That blew my mind when I figured that out. Because I'm looking throughout all the comic books, and I didn't watch your video at first. I'm watching all these, reading all these comic books to catch up, and all of a sudden this name besides Jeff Gomez's name kept popping up as, lead writer and artist. I'm like, who is this guy? And then I looked him up, and he's like, oh yeah, the creator of Shatterstar and Deadpool and the co-creator of X-Force. I'm like,
heck yeah. Oh,
okay.
Yeah. Big time. Like, that's what I'm saying. These weren't written by, like, nobodies. These were written and produced by people that knew what they were doing.
You know what my favorite track was when I was a kid? I couldn't afford a lot of Hot Wheel tracks when I was a kid. Because they were so expensive, like Legos. So the only ones that I had when I was a kid was the Swamp Thing AcceleRacers track.
That's wild, actually.
But it was before I knew about the series. So like I said, I have a very interesting story that it goes into the video. Same thing with the car. I had the Sidro, the orange dragon. Synchro. I had that before I watched the movies, so it was kind of like a deja vu when I watched the movies. My favorite track I ever had, no one will know it. It was called Monkey Attack. It was this massive beast that was like 30-foot tall track, and it had a giant loop in it, and it had this mecha King Kong like figure that would go around and start pounding the track with its fist. It is so cool. But that's what made it cool. It was like a King Kong like set, and the car had like to blast around and then shoot a missile into the mecha robot.
Did you ever play those Flash games?
Yep.
Yes.
I would go to my father's work, and I would play them on his computer every once in a while.
That's what it reminds me of. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. A lot of those track attack ones were on there. They had the dinosaur one. I remember that one because it would be the highway, and then you were trying to fight off the dinosaur eating the road. It was just, that was an interesting one. There's a couple of them.
Jace, what tracks did you have, bud?
I just got a lot of the orange tracks and connectors, and that was it. I mean, I had quite a few. I made my tracks, but I didn't have like a full set. It was just like, here's a bunch of road and connectors, go wild, and I did. And I had a few Hot Wheels, probably a good couple dozen. But
did you ever make them out of like paper plates and stuff like that, and like other household objects?
I used the real things. That's
what I would do.
But that was a good time. But yeah, I think we should wrap in just a minute here.
Yes.
I'd love, go ahead and plug your socials, anything you want to shout out.
Yeah, sure. You can find me on Instagram at jaycee.squared. That's not spelled out, just jaycee.squared. YouTube is JAYCEE squared. My Twitter is JC_squared. My TikTok is also JC squared. Basically, if you're on a social media platform, I'm on it. JAYCEE squared. SQUARED.
Wonderful. And you know what? We had a great conversation today. I'm so glad you're able to hop on. I'm glad we were able to get this together. I had a great time.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we'll have to have you on again.
Yeah, this was we went on for so long. Oh my god.
That's a lot, but I'm not mad at it. I had a good time. I'm glad you guys got to.
It was fun.
I learned a lot.
This was great.
I didn't always track, but now I'm interested. So,
there you go.
There we go. All right. So, thank you guys so much for watching today's episode. I've been Jace, and this is Zeth and Jaycee Squared. Have a good rest of your night.
Bye.